Welcome to part 2 of the React crash course. In this part, we're going to discuss about props and prop types. So let's get started. In our application, on the name field, it always says code climbing, and the description is always the same. So how can we do it so that each component has its own name, its own value? We do that with props. So here I am in my app. Here I called my profile component 3 times, but each time is the same thing. Instead, what I'm gonna do is pass down some variables. So here, I'm gonna just open it up so it's more clear. And I'm gonna pass a name. So it's gonna be code climbing, the first one. Here, I'm gonna do the same thing. The name is gonna be, for example, Samuel. Oops. And here the name is gonna be, let's say, John. Also, I want to input some description. I'm gonna do that right now. The best website, the best YouTube channel ever. Description, a cool guy. And a description of John, another cool guy. I'm gonna go back in my profile component. And in my profile component, I need to capture these variables that I've passed down. I'm gonna open some brackets to destructure an object which contains all the variables, or props is the real name. And I'm gonna destructure name because I've passed down a name and a description. And then I'm gonna show it up in the p tag. So if I open some brackets, and if you don't know, in React, opening the brackets is gonna execute some JavaScript. In this case, JavaScript is going to be the variable. So that's what we want to do. And here, the description. Oops, like this. Save. And now, if I go back to the app, indeed, name code climbing, name Samuel, name John. So it worked properly. Now, to illustrate the types of props that you can pass to components, I've created more props of various types. So we have the name description like before, which is a string, which means a series of characters. I also pass an age, which is not a string, it's a number. I also pass down a function. So I want to show that you can also pass functions to components. And here, you can even pass components to components. And the reason for that is because components are simply functions. And since we know that functions work, therefore components work. And here in my profile, the structure is the same way as before. The component is passed down can be inserted in JSX like any other component. The age is just interpreted JavaScript. And the onClick, it goes into the onClick property. And because it is React, the C in onClick is capitalized. And if I look at the app real quick, as we can see, the age is here. Just this component I created, an image component for the avatar. And if I click, indeed, there's the alert that pops up. But as you might have noticed, now we have components of various types. Some components are strings, some are numbers, some are functions, and some are even components. In fact, there's even more stuff I could pass down. I could pass down objects, I could pass down arrays containing themselves various types. So in very big applications, very quickly the types can cause bugs. So what we want to do is make sure that we take into consideration the type of each props. And a great tool to do that is the PropTypes. So what we want to do is here, you do npm install PropTypes. And this is gonna install a package that will allow us to keep track of the type of each prop. So now that is done installing, I can go back to here and I can do import PropTypes from the package that we just installed from PropTypes. And now we need to define the type of each prop. So here, I'm going to call my profile dot PropTypes, and the P has to be not the P has to be not capitalized, equal to an object. And in this object, we are now going to define the type. So we're going to start with the name prop. It's going to be PropTypes.string. And not only is that is required, because in this component you cannot have the profile without having the name. Now I filled up the prop types. As you can see, the name and description are strings as expected. The age, PropTypes.number, onClick.func, userAvatar.element. And just to, as a parenthesis, because I thought to go through all of the types. One imported type is, I'll put it in the comment maybe, PropTypes.shape, which define an object. So so it could be, for example, just want to see, keep in the comment. This object can have sub elements. For example, it could have like a name one, and this name itself as a PropTypes dot string. Another imported PropTypes that I can just open as an example is the array. The PropTypes dot array of. So the element is the array. We declare an array of PropTypes, and this PropType, this array can have various types of elements. So for example, I can have an array of strings, or I could have an array of numbers. But that is just an example. I just want to mention it because in application it's pretty important to have that. I now added a new type of prop again. This time look at the height prop. Here in my profile, there's a height of 6 for the first one, height of 6 for the second one, but then the third one, there's no height prop. So how is that handled? If I go to my profile again, here I get my variable, but in the PropTypes height, I just call it as not is required. So that's how I handle it. And if it's not required, how do I give it a default value? It's here by calling myProfile.defaultProps. Here, I say that if there is no height defined for that variable, we give it the default value of no height. And if I look now at my components, here the first two have a height of 6, and the third one have a height of no height, because that is the default value that I gave to the height prop. And finally, to conclude this discussion about the props, I want to mention a phenomenon that might happen in, let's say, like big complex project. It's the concept of props drilling. So the idea of props drilling is here in the app, I have the app prop, the app component, and this component has some props inserted to the sub-components. And if I go here, maybe this user avatar, I could pass one of the props. For example, I could pass like the name props. And maybe that components, after that, it has some sort of like image generator based on the name. So I have in this case drilled the name prop, because on the app, I define name on app, but then I drill it down to my profile, and I drill it down to the user avatar component. there might be a problem in big apps because in this case there are 2 layers, but in big apps there may be like many layers, like one component give a prop to that component, and this component pass it down to a component down, and you pass it down to a component even further down, and it can get pretty deep in the structure of the project. And in itself, it's not a problem, but if it gets very deep, it can cause a problem for debugging. For example, maybe the name is incorrect in the app, and you want to fix it. So what you do, you go to the root component, and then you see, the name is defined on the component above. So you go to the component above, and then you see, okay, the name is above again. So you go above it. The name is above, and you couldn't do that. It can take a while, and it makes debugging very difficult. So the solution to that would be to use something like a global state. For example, React Redux or the context API. Now, intuitive things are going to be covered in this tutorial. It might be in a separate a series of videos. But I just want to mention this phenomenon that it's not necessarily a problem. You might have to go up the tree, but if it becomes a problem, you can use a global state to manage those variables. So that's it for the part 2 of the React crash course. I hope it was very useful. And next time, we're gonna come back and discuss a feature of React that is hooks. So see you next time.